offensive line rankings, your last position group here for the 2020 draft. And there was one comment from someone on YouTube that said they need a one sheet of all of your top fives all in one spot that you could hold during the draft. And I think that was a good idea. So you can see which teams are getting guys that Chris Simms is all about. So we got your top five. We'll go through some honorable mentions here as well with your offensive line. But as a whole with this group, what do you think? Because there were some of these players that threw up incredible times, jumped off the page at the combine with Becton and Wirfs from Iowa. What do you think of this group as a whole? Because it seems like every year the tackles are some of the surest bets, top 15 guys that teams are going to pick early because they know their floor.
Well, I think you got three guys to me, and we'll hit on those three guys here in a minute, that stand above the rest as far as at the tackle position is concerned. You know, I'll say it for interior offensive linemen. It's not a real deep class as far as super talented guys. A lot of, mid-round, second, third-round type guys. And as you see here in a minute, we're only going to have one interior offensive lineman really, at least as they played in college, that's going to be in this top five rankings. But, there's some interesting fringe guys here too where, yes, we'll discuss this a little bit after the top five where, again, offensive tackle is a premium position. At times it can force teams to overdraft because, hey, yeah, maybe this guy was a second-round grade for us, but, man, the next guy down is, a significantly less grade, and now we got to draft him at the end of the first round, this guy. Even though we had a second-round grade on him, damn, it's offensive tackle. There's only so many to be had there that we think can make a difference in year one. So that's what's interesting about the position in general. And, I think this is one where, we're going to see a little run of these guys, I think, early in the first round, and then maybe a few go off the board later in the first round to go with it.
All right, so number five, your number five offensive line prospect in the 2020 draft is?
Cesar Ruiz, the center from Michigan. That's who I'm going to lead off with, Ahmed. First off, hey, center, for my money, is probably the second most important position other than tackle on the offensive line. Think about what you got to do. You got to snap a ball with Aaron Donald right over your face, and you got to snap that ball and somehow block that guy at the same time. Are you kidding me? I mean, I used to be underneath center against some defensive tackles going, can he really snap me this ball and block Warren Sapp at the same time? I don't think he's going to be able to do this. So it takes a special, twitchy, powerful athlete. And Ruiz is that. He's gotten to play against a lot of good defensive tackles in the Big Ten and some bowl games. He's certainly shown capable of, one, being really good at combo blocks, right? And then hey, let's double team this guy, and then I'll get up to the second level and take a linebacker out of the blocking scheme as well. Very good at that stuff. Has the great feet to mirror and pass rush. Has good power to hang in there against some of the big bodies that he faced that were true nose tackles. So to me, he was the guy that popped to me for the interior offensive line where I said, I like this kid. I really do. I don't know if he goes in the first round. I think it'll be close. I think he's going to be in that conversation. It depends on how the first round plays out. But I think he's certainly a guy that goes somewhere between 25 and 45 in the draft. And I really liked his game. Smart. He's in a pro-style offense there in Michigan, and really saw nothing glaring about him that made me concerned. It really didn't. He could handle speed guys, power guys. He could get out on the edge and pull and do things like that. I'm very impressed with the athleticism and power combination for Ruiz. And, yes, I think he is an end-of-the-first-round type talent at the position.
The one red flag that popped up for me is he grew up in New Jersey, and not often are good pro players from New Jersey, and so that was the one thing that I looked at with him. No, but the positives.
Yeah, you're funny.
I really am. I'm like kind of on a roll today. The positives with him, and I'm looking all around, and I love this combination because you look at the tape and you're the original content. I'm kind of like the aggregator, so I'm just looking around at all these different websites, and NFL.com had him as, quote, athletic and tenacious, winning with his quickness and his fast hands.
Right.
A lot of people like that about him. And here's what I thought. We talk about age every once in a while with some of these guys. Just 20 years old, one of the younger prospects in the draft, played 10 games as a true freshman at Michigan. So to be able to go into college and play right away and excel, and now you can maybe play as a 20-year-old in the NFL. There's still room to grow there for Ruiz, and so I think that still what he is right now is good, and there's still some projection there in the future.
Exactly right. I mean, Ahmed, you hit it. That's spot on, and that's why we make a good team. But that's exactly why, yes, hey, we all know the draft is about what we see on film. Okay, that's good, but it's also about projecting what the guy might be. And when you're 20 years old, you go, oh, the kid's going to get bigger and stronger and faster, and it's really only going to go up that way. But some of the explanations you talked about there and some of the other, people, scouts and things that jumped off to him. Yeah, that's what jumped out to me. And again, with all these freaky defensive tackles we're seeing in the NFL right now, and it seems like we're seeing a few come out in the first round of the draft every year. We just talked about 2. You better have some special athletes at center. Like I said, it's you're communicating. Hey, Molly, this. Let's double to this. Hey, Mike 54, and he's getting everybody on the same page. And all of a sudden, oh wait, the quarterback's saying the snap count. We got to say set hut, and I got to snap him the ball, and then get up and block Fletcher Cox and just stop him in his tracks. Like that takes a special skill talent, and that's why guys like Rodney Hudson and Alex Mack down in Atlanta and Matt Paradis and some of these other guys are such value commodities. Kelsey in Philadelphia. Because they add great flexibility to the offensive line, the scheme itself, and centers who can do special things like that allow offensive coaches to call some run plays that they might not be able to call if they had a real average center who couldn't move and pull and get to the second level and do those type of things. So Ruiz, really good player, and from Jersey, which makes him even better.
So he's your number 5 offensive lineman. Number 4 offensive lineman in your list of your 2020 prospects is?
Tristan Wirfs. Okay.
Okay.
All right. You got that? I know.
A little lower than a lot of people fell in love with what he did. Another player, just like we talked about Ruiz, was the first true freshman to start under Kirk Ferentz at Iowa. They have a long tradition with linemen, so the pedigree seems to be there for Wirfs.
Yeah, well, it is. And again, hey, there's a lot to like about this kid. And I'm flipping through my notes as I filibuster here just to make sure I get to him. But, okay, I mean, yes, you hit on it. He's got an unbelievable body. I think that's the first thing I would like to talk about. Ex-wrestler, really like unbelievable square shoulders, big legs, big butt, everything I like, Ahmed. You know that. But here's my biggest thing. There's no way he can play tackle in the NFL the first year in the league. There's no way. So that to me is one of the big reasons he's not in my top 3. He might be able to develop into a tackle. He certainly has some of the tools, but the play on the field does not match the combine numbers. I'm sorry. And as freaky as those numbers are, and there's still a lot to like, don't get me wrong. But when all is said and done, there is a lack of foot quickness in Tristan Wirfs for him to be a premier tackle, at least at the start of his career. There's just too many games, whether you go back and watch, Michigan or Penn State and a handful of other games where there's too many missed blocks. There's too many times where guys run around him either on the outside or the inside, or there's some stunting and some moving, and he falls to the ground. So to me, there's some spatial issues there. And that's why I think he'll be a better guard, at least at first. Hey, the guy's in front of me. I got to move him back. That's really, just keep it simple to that. But I think if he gets on the edge against some of the special speed pass rushers in the NFL, they're going to run circles around him. So that's what concerns me there. Still a really good player. I don't mean to knock on all the negatives. I'm just telling you why I don't think he's a tackle and why I really think he's a guard to start his career for sure. And I'm not totally sold he can ever make that transition to tackle. But nonetheless, I think he can be a really good guard for a long time.
Could you explain a little bit the value there for NFL teams and why it is more valuable? Because you need elite guys up and down the offensive line, but why it is more valuable for most teams to have that elite tackle as opposed to if he can only be an elite guard.
Yeah, well, you get so many different types of athletic specimens that come at you when you're playing the offensive tackle position, right? I mean, I know you're going to get that at guard too, but it's more in the realm of big people. All right. It's more in the realm of, you're a guard. You're going to be facing off against guys that are 285 pounds or bigger, like 98% of the time, or 98% of the snaps in the NFL. And a lot of it's going to be right there in front of your face. Just get off the ball and see if you can just beat that man mano-a-mano. When you're a tackle, hey, first off, toss sweeps, wide receiver screens, running back screens. You need to get out on the edge and be good in space to block linebackers or corners, right? That's one thing you're going to have to do that's a little different and more of a consistent thing asked of a tackle. The next thing is, Ahmed, one week you're facing a great speed rusher like Von Miller, and you go, whoa, you better have some unbelievable foot quickness and be able to shuffle and, bucket step and get back there to block him. And then the next week it's Cameron Jordan, who's 285 pounds, who can still really move and run you over. So now you're going to have great power and ability to anchor. And that's where the difference is at the position. So that's why the athleticism is so important at the at the footwork level, because you're going to see a variety of different guys at that tackle position. Some fast, some powerful, some more quick than fast. So then now you're going to be able to match their quickness back and forth. And I think those are some of the reasons, at least, that jump out to me.
So do you think teams will fall in love? Are there enough teams out there at the top of the draft board you think that will have fallen in love with what he has done? He set the record at his position for vertical jump at the combine, tied the record in the broad jump, ran the best 40 time for an offensive lineman this year. And Pete sent us that that video of him box jumping out of a pool, and he compared it to
amazing.
when Jamarcus Russell threw it 70 yards from his knees when Jamarcus Russell did that, and some teams fell in love with the physical ability. Do you think he's shown enough with that teams will take him early, even if you have him as your fourth best offensive line prospect?
I think that's a very good question. I think he'll most likely get overdrafted a little bit because of those numbers. Yes, I do. Because I think there's going to be a few offensive line coaches that are going to go, ooh, that's good clay right there. I think I can mold him into the person I want on film. Maybe we didn't see him on film, but I think I'm a good enough coach to change him. But I will say this. I went into the offensive line position thinking Wirfs was certainly going to be a top 10 pick, just from what people had told me. Of course, the combine workout. When I got done, I came away going, I'm not taking Tristan Wirfs in the top 10. I'm not. To me, he's somewhere between, let's just say, 10 and 25 for my money. I think that's really more of where I see Tristan Wirfs going. Again, it's a projection a little bit. You haven't seen him at guard. He is going to have to go do that. And there's some underwhelming moments on film that certainly would make me just a little queasy to waste a top 10 pick on him.
So not as high as some people have Tristan Wirfs, but you do have him at number 4. You got 2 Big Ten guys in your top 5 so far, the big bruisers. That is not uncommon either. But now it's down to the top 3, your number 3 prospect in 2020 on the offensive line.
Andrew Thomas from Georgia. Yeah, Andrew Thomas has got it all. He really does. He's got the look, first off, just a great body, unbelievable arm length. He does have the foot speed, the ability to mirror pass rushers, has a good anchor. Is he perfect? No. Okay. Are there times where I feel like he plays too high and too many blockers fall off him and make tackles? And I want to go, oh, you're just too big and strong to let that happen. Yeah, those are some of my concerns. But see, to me, those are coachable concerns. You can change those things. Pad level with an NFL coach and some of the drills they do. And again, getting out of the college environment where there's the 20-hour rule and all you're doing is football 24/7. Those are things I look at and go, oh, you can fix that in a football player. Foot quickness, like we were just talking about with Tristan Wirfs, I'm not so sure you can. That's going to take a lot of work to change that, okay? So with Andrew Thomas, he really has all the skills, the DNA traits, the physical traits to go, oh, this is a franchise left tackle for a long, long time. And was in a somewhat of a pro-style offense in Georgia where you get to see him do a lot of pro-style stuff. So yes, I'm a big fan of Andrew Thomas. You know, he can match with the speed pass rushers like we just talked about. And then if power pass rushers come after him, he's got the ability to sink his butt in the ground and stop people in their tracks too. And that's what I like about him.
Yeah, there is a lot to like, and I think he is climbing up some draft boards for people out there. Some of the reports that I read on him: gritty, quote, able to get the job done when things break down, really powerful hands, and he has shown the ability to do it from right tackle and left tackle. His first year at Georgia, he played 15 games, started all of them
Yes.
at right tackle, moved over to left tackle in his sophomore year, second team All-American there. So he has been able to do it from both sides, and so you already have that on tape and know he has shown that ability. You know, it's
Yes.
interesting that you mentioned the things that he is not doing well right now and can be coached, because in a lot of the places that I read about him, they seem to think that at Georgia he was very well coached and did show some good technique. And so you do almost wonder, has he already gotten that coaching, and the things that you're seeing on tape that need to be improved, maybe he's had trouble improving. I just find that interesting that in a couple of reports they thought, well coached, good technique, and so it's funny that you pick out a couple of things that you didn't like as far as his technique.
Well, yes. You know, first off, I'm being picky, and we're talking about top 12 picks, and there's,
Sure.
to find the difference between three tackles who are both top 12 picks. You know, you start to get into minute differences about what makes one guy better and what makes one guy a little less than. And, Ahmed, I'm not arguing that he was well coached at Georgia. He was. I mean, again, first off, the bar for offensive linemen being coached in college football is very low right now. I mean, when you watch film of offensive linemen, you see a lot of offensive linemen go, they've only run one run play and one pass protection their whole life. They do nothing. It's just like step to the right, it's zone blocking. Step to the left, it's slide pass protection. That's all I've done my whole career. So from the standpoint of, this guy, Thomas, like I said, he got to do a lot of pro stuff. And so from that standpoint, you do get to see it. All I'm saying, if I just had to read my words verbatim here, right? First off, I'm glad you said the thing about the hands, because we talked about his arm length. He gets his hands on you, it's over. I mean, once he gets to this position, like night, he's going to throw you around like a rag doll. And that's what's impressive. But here was just a few things on the negative side, right? Where I just wrote, versus the run, he does play high. It compromises his power at times. He's a guy that his guy makes the tackle more than Wills and Becton, which I just said just bothers me a little bit more. And really, the only negative I came away with as I watched the film and really dive deep, I just said it just annoys me his pad level. Allows too many people to fall off. He's just a little easier to get off of and make a tackle as compared to the other top guys in the draft. That's really all it came down to. And I love his aggressive nature. He wants to pound you into the ground. I love that attitude about him. You better have that to play left tackle in the NFL. He's got great get off at the line of scrimmage, Ahmed. Like when it's a run play and he fires off, I mean, there's some explosion there. And at times he dominates people, especially when his pad level's low. Other times it's a big collision, and then he just kind of sits there with the guy and leans on him. And that's, pad level, continuing your leg drive, but things that I think are very easily corrected in the NFL.
Top 3 lineman is Andrew Thomas out of Georgia for Chris. Okay, so now you're down to your top 2. You mentioned a couple of names there, so I think I know where you're going with this, but I don't know who number 1's going to be. So who gets the silver medal? Who is the second best offensive line prospect in your eyes this year?
This was tough, okay? This really was. I mean, I could almost say this is almost a 1A, 1B type of thing for me again. But I'm going to say Mekhi Becton gets my silver medal. And man, holy cow. A specimen, first off. Yeah. I mean, a true specimen. To see a human being that big move the way he moves and as strong as he is, as compared to the other offensive linemen at times, Ahmed, he can miss a block where he just gets the edge of a guy and the guy still falls down and it's a pancake. And you're like, whoa, he got like his 3 fingers on the guy and the guy fell down. Like, it's unbelievable. Now, from that standpoint, the length, his feet are off the charts good. I mean, it's really impressive how he moves that way. Everything is positive there. It's an underwhelming, not necessarily offensive tackle friendly offense he ran at Louisville, and a little simple at times to where I want to go, man, I wish I could have seen him do some more NFL type of stuff. But there's just no denying the physical dominance and the freakness of this player, Ahmed. There's not. There really isn't. If I had to say there's one thing, okay, here's two little things to be picky on again. And I'm telling you, I love this kid. He's a top 10 pick. I'm not going to be mad if he went number 4 to the New York Giants. I get it. He's worthy of that, in my opinion. But, all right, one thing, maybe adjusting to blockers on the fly, right? Oh, he thinks the blocker is going to be on his outside edge and then set hut, and all of a sudden the blocker shoots inside to a gap. Is he the best to adjusting on the fly? Maybe not the best, okay? But I didn't go away going, oh, man, he misses way too many blocks doing that. Well, we're being picky here because we're talking about top 10 picks. And then, again, I don't know this, but his size would scare me a little bit. It would. I mean, one bad offseason and he could be 400 pounds, and then there it goes. So, that's a little bit of a scary thing to me too. And that's where, as long as Mekhi Becton, the person, checks out to where these coaches go, oh, this kid loves football. He's going to work hard. He's not going to let his body slip. It scares me that I hear he was 394 pounds before the year started. That's scary to me because, that just shows you it can easily happen. But, from the film itself, it is special. And he is a franchise left tackle. Whether you want to call him Jason Peters or Orlando Pace or Jonathan Ogden or Trent Brown, I mean, he is that type of guy, Ahmed.
Yeah, there was one report that the athletic comp for him was Shaquille O'Neal. Not even a football player, just 6'7", 364 is what he measured in. And then that 5'1", 40-yard dash was the heaviest player to run a 40 under 5'2" since 2006. A lot of the things that you mentioned there, one of the questions that popped up a couple of times was the fact that Louisville was basic at time, a running team with just play action passing, not a whole lot of that, straight drop back passing, pass protection that you're going to see in the NFL. But you're right, the Mauler in the run game, that was a direct quote from one of the articles that I read, has switched between right tackle and left tackle often at Louisville. And a low floor. You talk about the high ceiling, low ceiling guys. It seems to have a low floor because he is athletic enough to do that outside zone blocking stuff, but he's just such a beast inside. You figure he's going to be good in the running game. So you figure he's not going to be a total bust at anything, unless, like you mentioned, he gets up to 400 pounds.
Yeah, no, I mean, I just can't imagine him being a bust. I can't. And that's what I mean. I mean, as long as he's, checks out as a person, I don't see how that could be. There's just too many positives, Ahmed. And, I'm glad, you said some of those things about, the Louisville offense and that, because it just, again, me, I just watch the film. I don't sit there and read what everybody's saying. And I'm not sitting there dissecting Louisville's offense, but I'm dissecting what they're asking him to do. And it's very basic. And some of those points, that I made about him missing a block here and there at times, hey, really, at times, I think it was a little bit of the predictability of the offense itself to where, the defensive end almost knew what the play was coming. He was like, I've seen this run play 9 times already in the first half, and I know it's coming again. Mekhi Becton, you're going to come out here and try to drive me into the ground, and I'm going to let you come out here this time, but I'm going to give you the old okey doke and fly inside and then try to make the tackle that way, to where, again, I didn't look at it as totally a negative. I wasn't like, oh, Mekhi Becton can't block in space or do that. No, I saw plenty of him blocking in space. I mean, it was phenomenal to see a guy like that. And just a little, again, verbatim, again, what I wrote, I mean, when he gets his hands on you, I wrote, it's over, okay? Sorry for the bad language, but that's what I wrote. He can push people and get a pancake block. Then I wrote, ability to adjust on the fly is really impressive for his size. I wrote, he will fall off blocks from time to time, but it's really just about him being too aggressive and wanting to smush people. If he can just control that, he would really almost never fall off blocks. But devastating power, can truly dominate people. I wrote the offense is BS and doesn't suit him. As I told you, if the person checks out, then he has everything. Wow, because he is an unbelievable player that you just don't see come around the NFL a whole lot.
Yep, and you've mentioned that a couple times if the person checks out, and that is true for really any prospect in the draft. But he did
and one last
get
thing.
flagged.
One
He
last
did get
thing.
flagged for that
Oh,
drug
yes.
test.
Okay, go
But
ahead. Let's hit on that.
he's addressed that with teams here. A lot of people talking from Louisville, the AD there, say there's no history with him, and so they're trying to explain that away. But it was a flagged drug test at the combine for Mekhi Becton.
Yeah, well, again, I think we're in a new age. Oddly enough, it's 420, right? And
Yeah.
but we're in an age where I don't think teams are, as long as he didn't test positive for, I think if it's cocaine or heroin or something crazy like that, that's going to be an issue. All right. But I don't think most teams are going to look at it and go, oh, man, a college kid smoked pot. Damn, we got to drop him off the first round, grade. I don't think that's going to be the issue. And, as far as it's been flagged, right? It wasn't a diluted sample or anything like that. It was a true
Just
flag
flagged.
specimen.
There aren't a whole lot of details on it, but all we know is it was flag drug test.
Okay. All right. And, again, that'll go into area scouts, what they know about the player, what's the rumors and talk about him specifically on campus at Louisville. And then, of course, his Zoom, FaceTime meetings like you and me do every week are going to be important for him. But, truly, truly impressive. And, I'll just say this. One of the last things I wrote, when he learns how to punch and strike first, right? Because he's such a big human being that he moves his feet and mirrors, and then when people try to power rush him, he doesn't care. He just sits there and goes, go ahead, hit me. You're not going to move me. And he kind of just absorbs the hit and stops it. When he learns, Ahmed, to just be boom, boom, and stop people in their tracks before they even start their power move, watch out, because he'll be basically unstoppable at that point. And I wrote, really, all his negatives to me were the system and coaching, not the player. And he is a definite top 10 pick.
So you really like Mekhi Becton. A lot of people do, but we talked about him there for probably about 8 minutes. So that must mean you really, really, really like the guy that you have just ahead of him, although you said they're really close in your rankings here. Jedrick Wills from Alabama, number 1 for you, Chris.
Yeah, Jedrick Wills, you get to see him do everything against high-level competition, and he does it at such a high level that that's what made me feel a little bit more comfortable about me ranking him ahead of Mekhi Becton. That's really all it was. Player for player, if I had to sit here and grade them, damn, it's real close. I mean, it would have been minute difference. But I think it is the fact that, you get to see a guy like Wills in a pro-style offense do a lot of different stuff. And I don't want to say it's a pro-style offense because it's not. But you get to see some pro running schemes. You get to see him do a lot of the wide receiver, running back schemes. Again, college football, it's amazing. Even a team like Alabama, when you watch a game, how many times a quarterback actually drops back in a true drop back pass? That's what's amazing to me more than anything, Ahmed. But Wills, just to hit on it here, my pro player comparison would be Lane Johnson of the Philadelphia Eagles. That's to me who he is. He could be the best right tackle in all of football. Wills, high cut, great body, long arms, unbelievable feet. He will be awesome in pass protection or any run scheme throughout the NFL. And you got to see him do it against SEC defensive linemen on a weekly basis. He can dominate you physically. And even when he knows he's not in a position to dominate you, he's still got a great ability to go, oh, I know how to shield my guy off and at least not let him make the tackle. He just got great instincts that way. Really knows how to play the game. And athletically, he's just special, Ahmed.
Yeah, he has been special for a while in high school. He was a five-star prospect, top 50 recruit, and so people have been high on Wills for his entire football career here. Some of the scouting reports that I read, amazingly athletic, moves smoothly for a tackle prospect. Pro Football Focus thinks he could be a good tight end at his current weight of 312 pounds. I think he moves that well, along
Yes.
with being a dominant run blocker. Played 11 games as a freshman at Alabama, became a staple there. And like you mentioned, in the SEC, there's that tape of him doing it against really good competition. There really aren't that many negative reports on there. Like you mentioned, you're splitting hairs if you try to find something negative with Wills, but I couldn't find a whole bunch. They just think he's got that basketball agility with the power of an offensive lineman in the NFL.
That's exactly right. And then the arm length of a great right tackle or left
Yeah.
tackle. I think he could be able to play either position if he had to when said and done, right? Like I look at the New York Giants, you got Nate Solder at left tackle. You're going to keep him there for now. You know, if you drafted a guy like Wills with pick number 4, hey, now you got a great right tackle. And eventually he could be your franchise left tackle if you need to move him over there. But either way, yeah, I mean, there's really nothing to talk about here with this guy negatively. You know, all right, just to say, just to hit on some negatives, because I've hit on negatives on everybody, right? I wrote, at times, will stop his feet upon contact, right? Where, you know, he'll just lean on a guy and maybe not finish the job. But that was being very picky. Other than that, I mean, I wrote run blocking. It's off the charts good. I really got no questions at all there. Versus the pass, great hands and arm use to stop pass rushers. Has great eyes, Ahmed, to like see stunts and blitzes coming. So he's really ahead of the game in a lot of ways where, you know, he's passing it off with a guard and then getting ready for a looping tackle to come around and pass rush. He was always all over it and ready for it to come when it did happen. So, you know, he's been taught well, let alone he's got the size, and then like you mentioned, all these special physical abilities, and that's why I think he's a can't miss top 10 prospect.